everyone, welcome to Make It Festive with Walmart. My name is Jessie, and today we'll be learning how to make upcycled velvet candles, as well as learning how to paint a faux velvet texture using Waverly chalk paint. Today we'll be doing two projects. For the upcycled velvet candle, you'll need Pringles cans, Mod Podge mat, scissors, velvet, a paintbrush, and some twine. For the faux velvet painted ornament, you'll need a paintable ornament, a small paintbrush, Waverly chalk paint in moss, and celery. Okay, so let's start making our velvet candlestick. So to make this, like I said, we'll be using our Pringles can. So make sure you've eaten all the chips inside or put it aside in a plastic bag or something. And you also need your velvet. So I'm gonna unroll my velvet here, and we're actually just gonna use the Pringles can as a template to cut our fabric. So just make sure you have it nice and open, nice and flat. And then I'm going to lay my Pringles can on my velvet, and I'm just gonna roll it up, and that's gonna give me my template so I know how much fabric I'm gonna need to wrap the whole thing. So once you do that, you kind of make sure you have enough room there. You wanna have a little bit of extra to tuck in. We're gonna take our scissors and we're gonna cut our velvet. And then the same thing in the other direction. And you don't have to worry about covering the top of the candle right now. We'll worry about that in a minute. You just wanna make sure it's enough height to cover the size of our candlestick or our Pringles can. So now we can go ahead and we can glue this on using our Mod Podge mat. So I'll be using Mod Podge mat today, but it really doesn't matter which formula you use. You could use a different sheen if you wanted to. Of course, it's just gonna be under the fabric, so you won't really see the sheen. You could use Mod Podge fabric too, but I have Mod Podge mat, and that's the one I like using most, so we'll be using that today. Before we get started, I do wanna say the top of our candle is going to be the bottom of the Pringles can. So it doesn't really matter for this part, but just something to keep in mind. And I'm gonna start painting on my Mod Podge. I'm gonna do a nice even coat, and we're gonna kind of go section by section so that it doesn't dry before we get a chance to add our velvet on. And then I'm going to start wrapping it with my velvet. Make sure it's nice and snug on there. Just gonna continue all the way around our Pringles can, doing nice even coats of Mod Podge. If you do it too thick, it could go through your fabric and make the surface of the velvet kind of sticky, and we don't really want that. If it happens, it's not a big deal, but we'll try to avoid it. So we're just gonna keep wrapping it and pressing down. You can kind of see it happen there, and that's okay. It'll dry really clear, of course, because it's Mod Podge, so you don't have to worry too much, but it's nice if we kind of try to keep it clean as we go. So we're getting up on the edge here, and now you can see that we have some extra fabric because we gave ourselves a little bit of wiggle room when we were cutting, which is great. So now we're gonna make a really tidy edge so it looks nice and neat when you have it displayed in your home. And we're gonna kind of wrap it like a present. So I'm gonna take this edge here and I'm gonna fold it. But first I'm gonna put Mod Podge on it. So I just wanna show you guys what we're about to do. So I'll put a little bit of Mod Podge on there so it tacks down. You just need a tiny bit, you don't need much. Again, you don't want it going all the way through your fabric, so just a little bit is fine. We're gonna fold that over so you have that nice clean edge. Can's getting away from me. And then we're going to put some up here so that when we tack it up, it'll stick in place. Just on the edge of that. Again, just like we're wrapping a present. Just wherever you would kind of put tape or whatever you use when you like to wrap presents, we're gonna use that. Same technique here using our Mod Podge. And wrap that up and fold it so it's got a nice, neat edge. So while our Mod Podge is drying, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna make the top of our candle. So I have a scrap of poster board here, and we're going to make a template of the edge of the Pringles can. We want it to be slightly smaller. And what we're making here is a piece that's gonna kind of sit in that lip of the Pringles can, so you have a really neat top of our candle. So I've already done that. I just sort of traced the Pringles can and then I cut it slightly smaller. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab some of our velvet and we're gonna wrap this in velvet. little piece of poster board here. You can also use cardboard, whatever kind of scrap you have at home that's a little bit sturdier than paper. I'm gonna start tacking this down. So I went ahead and let this dry. I cut off some of the excess fabric. So now we have this nice circle that we can insert into our Pringles can. You can see here too, I went ahead and I tucked in these edges so they're nice and clean. I did the same for the top. And now we're gonna use some hot glue to add this to our top so we have that nice clean edge. Apply a ring of hot glue very carefully. And we're gonna press that into that little lip. So we have a super tidy edge at the top. It's nice and clean. And while we have our hot glue out, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna make a wick for our candle out of twine. And we're gonna tie it into a knot. So I'm folding it in half here. I'm gonna tie it into a little knot. And then very carefully with a little dollop of hot glue, we're gonna add that to the very center of the top of our candle. I'm gonna set that there and hold it while it cools. And then you can go ahead and trim it if you need to, if you want to have a shorter wick. And there we have a really cute faux candle made out of velvet. So now for the faux velvet painting texture, you need 2 Waverly chalk paint colors that are similar in color but different in value. And what I mean by that is that one is a little bit lighter and one is a little bit darker. So the colors I have today are celery and moss, which are these 2 really pretty green colors. They kind of go together, but they're not exactly the same. So I've got just a paper mache ornament here, but you can paint over an old ornament. If you've got a glass ornament, that'll work too. Just whatever kind of ornament you're planning on decorating. And I've got a small flat brush. And I'm gonna start by picking up one of my colors, so this one's celery. And I'm gonna start painting that onto my ornament, just kind of in different directions, lots of tiny brush strokes. We're not really base coating, we're just getting some paint onto it. And then, without cleaning my brush, I'm gonna pick up some of the moss and I'm gonna go right over that. You wanna make sure it's still wet, and you wanna make sure you're doing really random brush strokes, and that's what's gonna give us that really soft faux velvet texture. So we're gonna keep doing this all over our ornament. And the great thing about Waverly chalk paint is that, my first favorite thing is that it has great coverage, so we'll only have to do this once. We won't have to go back over it with texture, which is great. But also it comes in so many colors that there's lots of variations you could do this in. You could do blues and reds and all different kinds of combos for your Christmas ornament and still get that pretty velvet texture. Make sure it's nice and soft. If you have any areas that are like too stark in contrast, you can go back and just kind of do these small brush strokes over it to blend it a little. I'm gonna do this whole thing with this texture. It's gonna cover the entire ornament. So once you finish painting your ornament, you can let it dry, and it looks something like this. And then you can embellish it with fun things like treasure gold paint, you can use velvet ribbon, sparkly ribbon, and you can also use this technique on larger surfaces like these wooden trees right here to decorate your home for the holidays. For more project ideas and inspiration, go to plaidonline.com.